Baylor walks off TCU. They really did that. It felt like 2014. We got a field storming, and it was a wonderful day for an exorcism. This is the Locked On Baylor football postgame.
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Oh, man. Welcome to the Locked On Baylor football postgame, your number one destination for Baylor football postgame coverage. Best in the business. Thanks for making it your first listen today and every day. I'm Cam Stewart, but you probably already knew that. Bears walk off TCU, first win in the Revivalry in 5 years, and the first time they've beaten them at McLean Stadium since 61-58. I have put on, if you're watching on YouTube, my Baylor blackout Bryles era jersey, but you can't really see it much on here, so it's kind of moot. Bears win. 37-34, walk-off 33-yard field goal, Isaiah Hankins to win the thing. See you later, TCU. Oh, that felt good. That felt really good. It was the vibes were so high in McLean Stadium at the end of the game. And it hasn't felt like that in a few years. In a few years, guys, it felt like we were dying for something like that. We felt that way after the Tech game, of just dying for a win that was convincing. You got a fun vibes last week against Oklahoma State. This was one that you've been waiting for a long time. Beating TCU finally and doing it in dramatic fashion. And what a game this was. Was it 61-58? No, but this was a good football game. An absolute classic. No turnovers in the whole game, by the way. TCU came into this game with a -11 turnover differential and no points or no turnovers in the whole game. Whew. Bryson Washington is obviously the story from the actual statistical gameplay standpoint. Baylor can run the heck out of the football, man. This is the third straight week they have been over 250 yards on the ground, and obviously third straight win, and those things go hand in hand. Bryson Washington, 26 carries for 196, 7.5 a carry, and 4 touchdowns. It's been a long journey just to get from McLean Stadium to home, so I haven't looked it up, but I want to find out who was the last Bear to run for 4 touchdowns and who was the last one to rush for 200 yards in the game, which Bryson Washington almost did at 196. That was your dude. Went into this game with TCU being the 14th best rush defense in the Big 12. There are 16 teams in the Big 12. All of that's a little confusing, but what you need to know, TCU bad at defending the run, and Baylor absolutely made them pay for it. Both teams well over 400 yards of total offense. In fact, the Bears 1 yard short of 500 yards of total offense. Josh Hoover had a nice game on the other side, 25-34, 333, a couple of touchdowns, of course, no picks. Sawyer Robertson was fine as well, 19-34 for 242. Did not throw a touchdown pass. Feels like the first time in his life he didn't do that, but came up with some big plays for you. This was a really good, evenly matched football game. Both teams perfect in the red zone. Average yards per play were nearly the same, 6.6 to TCU, 6.4 to Baylor. Average yards per completion, 13 to 12.7. Rush obviously favored Baylor. They had the ball for almost 30 minutes each, 31.5 for TCU, 28.5 for Baylor. This was a great football game and an awesome win for Baylor, because I don't know about you guys, but in the second half, I wasn't feeling great about things. TCU had scored on 4 straight drives. In fact, they score on 5 of their final 6 drives to end the game, which dates back to the second quarter. And I wasn't feeling great, man. I didn't think Baylor made adjustments. Their pass coverage was not good again today. It wasn't very good last week. That's something they absolutely need to work on as we head into a bye week. But I was worried. And then when they got the ball with 1:55 left in the game, before they took the field, I said, they're going to score. They're going to win this game. 2 minutes, three timeouts. Sawyer's been good, and this is a moment made for him. I thought it was as confident as I felt about a game-winning drive for Baylor in a long time. I mean, we're talking, I guess, Charlie Brewer at quarterback. Like we're talking a while here, right? Because we didn't really get in that scenario in 2021. I might be missing something, but not like hey, here's a chance for a drive to win the game. You're going to have the ball last kind of scenario. And then they did not have the drive I was looking for. It took them a minute 20 to run the first 4 plays. So all of a sudden, you got it at the 30, or you have 35 seconds left. You haven't really gone anywhere. And they don't get that pass interference call, which would have put the ball at the 29-yard line. They were at the TCU 44. And I'm looking up. It's 4th down. And they're lining up there. I'm like, wait a minute. There was, I think, 15 or 12 seconds left. And they're going for it. I think it was 16, actually. 16 seconds left. They're at the TCU 44, and they're going for it on 4th and 9. TCU's got 2 timeouts here. They can get the ball back. They can use the middle of the field and kick a field goal to win it. I'm like, is this going to be 2022 all over again? TCU calls the timeout, and I'm like, okay, Baylor's just trying to draw them off sides. They'll go out and they'll punt this thing, pin them deep, play for overtime. And they didn't. They went for it again. They used the same formation. They said, no, we're going for it, 4th and 9. And talk about the balls on Dave Aranda and Jake Spavital and whoever was calling that play and making that decision. There was some serious cojones on the Baylor sideline to actually go for that. And they go to Michael Trigg to the 29, where that pass interference would have gotten them anyway. How about that for a little poetic justice, by the way? Drake Dabney has not won a Revivalry game in his career. 3 years at Baylor, transfers to TCU, complete non-factor in this game, 2 catches for 14 yards. His replacement, Michael Trigg, not only gets 5 for 51, but has that huge, huge play to get them to the 29. And then Baylor's got time. They run to Bryson Washington after that. 13 more yards, 33-yard field goal. Icing doesn't matter. Bears win at the buzzer. Wow. I'm not going to take the opportunity to really even break down any more of the stats and kind of the strategy and what I thought Baylor did well and what they did not do well. It's really late at night, and I want to really celebrate this. This was awesome. I mean, we talk about this being the rivalry, and it has not gone Baylor's way the last few years. Like, TCU was absolutely holding over a big brother, little brother scenario. But that was something Baylor needed. Oh, I do need to go over one more sequence in this game, which is whatever the hell that was in the third quarter with all the flags when Baylor was trying to score from the 1-yard line. Okay, I'm going to try to go over what I know about this. Okay, so Bears get down to the 1-yard line. Okay. And I have in the notes just weird refereeing sequence. So they call a false start on Baylor from the 1-yard line. Okay. So that backs them up to the 6. Then Baylor snaps the ball. They run the play. And by the way, it's a trick play, essentially. It's a jump pass. Sawyer takes a step towards the line like Tim Tebow used to do, takes a step towards the line of scrimmage, backs up, jumps, throw to the fullback in the middle of the field, wide open. No one's there with him. Should be a Baylor touchdown. But the refs throw a flag as the ball is being snapped. Why, you might ask? They do it simply to clarify what the call was on the play before. What the hell is that? Big 12, that's the best you can do with your officials. By the way, Brett Yormark in the building tonight, in the press box. I talked to him before the game because someone made him show his credential, which I thought was funny. Okay, so they literally stop a play as it's happening to clarify what the call was before. So then Baylor lines up again from the 6-yard line, show their, they line up to show their formation. And then they throw another flag. But get this, it's also not a penalty. They then review the first play because they still can, because they blew the second play dead. And then when they review this first play after the third play, they say, oh, well, actually was 12 men on the field for TCU, so it offsets. Let's run it from the 1. What was that? Just talk about complete incompetence from the officials there. And it was bad. It was bad officiating for both teams, I thought, because there was one where Steve Linton threw a guy down after the whistle and was not called. It should have been a personal foul. It was not. Weird officiating. But how about the last 2 games between these two at McLean Stadium? Both come down to field goals with zeros on the clock. This one was a lot more fun because, y'all, I remember that 2 years ago. That was as low as I had felt after a Baylor football game in a lot of ways. You know, it wasn't for a championship. It was solely for bragging rights, but Baylor had it. They had it. And that was a frustrating season to that point, but they had TCU right where they wanted them. They were about to knock them out of the playoff and ruin their season. And TCU does that fire drill field goal. And I'm going home so dejected, man. I remember I was so happy to see my girlfriend's dog when I walked in the door. That was really sucked walking out of that stadium that day. It's like a top 2 worst feelings I've ever had walking out of that stadium. So tonight, when they nailed that game-winning field goal, I almost got emotional. I did not, but I almost got emotional seeing the fans pour out onto the field, which was cool. Was cool, no matter what some loser local journalist is saying. It was a TCU alum. Couldn't be working in Waco because I love the local journalists in Waco. But it was cool. It was a great feeling. It was so awesome to see this team, this coaching staff, and these fans get to celebrate something. And I know that there were some of you that were getting emotional or nearly emotional in the stands. Shout out to Callan on her birthday. Happy birthday, Callan. How about that for a birthday gift? You get to see a walk-off against TCU and then almost get emotional in the stands, or maybe get emotional in the stands. Bryson Washington, certified dog. That's your guy, man. They're not there yet, but we are seeing future Baylor legends on this team, which we have not seen in a few years, because Bryson Washington, Sawyer Robertson, like those guys are going to be that. Caden Jenkins, these guys that still have time. You know, obviously Josh Cameron will be held in a high regard, but I believe this is his last year of eligibility. I hope it's not. But yeah, that was really, really fun. Yeah, Ryan, it did just have to be a walk-off. It just had to. Thomas, you haven't been around the Big 12 very long. 2 bye weeks in the season. Yeah, that used to be the norm when you would just play everyone in the conference. But how about this for a stat? Baylor went into their first bye week after Iowa State with 3 straight losses leading into it. Now they head into the second bye week after 3 straight wins. Gotta love that. Next challenge is a big one in Morgantown. This is a long one. Let's do this. This win was so big psychologically to beat TCU. You'd only done it one time the last decade, to show this team that they can win games that come down to the final drive. I think that second part's the real important part. You know, I thought they finished the game very well last week in a game that they almost let get away from them. That wasn't perfect. I thought they finished it really well. And now this was like, hey, crunch time, go and finish out a ball game, because you didn't against Colorado last month, or a month and a half ago now, a little over a month ago. You didn't do that. And now you did. And that was awesome. Yeah, let's revisit this. 4th and 9, right at midfield with 20 seconds left. Those were gigantic nuts. That took gigantic nuts. And if they don't get it, oh boy, that's really, really not good for Dave Aranda, because a lot of people still have him like pretty firmly on the hot seat. The seat's warm, I'll say that, but it's not as piping hot as it was a few weeks ago. And if they don't get that and TCU comes down and kicks a game-winning field goal, that would have been a really, really bad deal for Dave Aranda and for Baylor altogether. Kamish, we put these 3 games together. It feels different now. Makes me think about the close games they lost. Yeah, me too. Me too. I think that's going to be something I talk about this week. But this feels like a different team. And the emotional aspect of this, I felt really happy for those players. Really happy. Because you'll remember, a lot of you watched, it's one of my highest viewed videos ever, that post game we did after the Colorado loss, where I was, putting a lot of it on the coaches and saying, that group put out maximum effort out there, and breaks didn't go their way, and they didn't execute when they needed to in the final plays of regulation and obviously in overtime. And it's the exact opposite of that a little over a month later. I'm so happy for this group. This is a very likable group. Okay. They have not mailed it in. They have talent. They're starting to develop leadership, and they want to play for this coach. Last year, I think that was a valid question to say whether these guys wanted to play for their coach. This year, that's not a question. And it wasn't even really a question when they were losing. They were doing stupid things, but it wasn't a lack of effort. This is seeing the effort pay off. This is a good group. Okay, guys, this is a very likable group, and this is a really great win for them, and for all of us, to be totally honest with you. So happy to see the fans show up. It's been a minute. That was an awesome atmosphere. Shout out to you students, because that's what I'm talking about, man. That's what we've been waiting for. Okay? And whatever time this Kansas game is in 4 weeks, be there, because that was a terrific atmosphere. I haven't seen an atmosphere like that at McLean in years. We've seen some that on the surface should have been that 2022 against, and they've been blackouts actually, 2022 against Kansas State, and last year against UT, but we never had a chance to cheer in either of those games. This time you did, and that was really a freaking awesome atmosphere tonight. And you guys stayed, and it was beautiful. The blackout worked so well. That felt like it did back in the day. This felt like a game back, 8, 9, 10 years ago, which was really cool. Scotty B, thank you for the assist on this one. Josh Cameron has another year. Woo, I love that. Bryson Washington, that first to score 4 rushing touchdowns since 2011. That would have been Terrence Ganaway scoring 5, which is the Baylor record. He tied somebody, I don't remember. He did that in the bowl game against Washington, which I think is still the highest scoring bowl game of all time, 67-56 at the Alamo Bowl in San Antonio. That was awesome. And how about Baylor basketball on Monday? Yeah, this is get used to some late night stuff. Because we're going to be up real late breaking down the Baylor basketball game they opened the season on Monday, top 10 matchup against Gonzaga. What did I say last week, guys? I said in a week from now, we could be on this great high of beating your most bitter rivals and then preparing for a top 10 matchup in basketball, which we haven't even talked about yet. We'll be talking about that obviously in Monday's show, but we'll have to recap a lot of this. And Kamish, yes, let's get those likes up. It helps me and the channel a lot. When you guys get involved in the comment section and like and subscribe, that really, really helps. It's not just things that fluff that I say at the end of the shows. We're so close to that 3,000 subscribers. I'm hoping we can get there pretty soon here with this awesome crowd that we've got here watching it live tonight. And for those of you who are listening or watching afterwards, yeah, be sure to give that a like. That really helps a lot. Thomas says this feels like the best one all year. It sure does. It sure does. And for all the honoring that we did for the 13-14 teams, and obviously a lot of talk about that 61-58 game, to have a walk-off field goal, that's pretty special. Like, that's some rivalry special stuff. I really love that. I shouldn't have laughed at this, but I did. So if you weren't at the game, you didn't see it, but during one of the TV timeouts in the first half, they brought a young lady out there to do the field goal challenge, and she missed. wasn't really close. And they said, oh, special guest, Chris Callahan. And I'm like, oh my God, I know what my dad's saying. Watch it right now. He used to critique Chris Callahan all the time. And I said, oh, a 30-yard field goal. I don't think this is automatic. And he missed it. He missed it. I mean, the guy has not kicked in a long time. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. It was just kind of funny. But how about Isaiah Hankins before I get out of here? Isaiah Hankins, 33-yard field goal to win it. Now, he did miss an extra point earlier in the game, which made sure this was a tie game, but he hits the game-winning field goal. And lest we forget, Isaiah Hankins was being dragged through the mud over a month ago when he missed that field goal that would have sealed the Colorado victory. And the next week, he was not the kicker. He had lost his job. Connor Hawkins was kicking the extra points the next week against BYU, and they didn't kick a field goal in that game. Isaiah Hankins had lost his job a month ago, and now he is kicking game-winning field goals over your arch rival and having the fans storm the field and carrying him off on his shoulders. That's awesome. That's an awesome story. That's what this rivalry should be. And I'll say this. It's about damn time. It's about time you beat these guys. And that's not to take away from anything tonight. That's not to critique anything. But it's about damn time. Okay? One win against these guys in a decade. 5 years since you'd beaten them. You've had some good teams in there. They've had some good teams in there. You've both had some bad teams in there. And you couldn't beat these guys. If they had lost this game tonight, I would have been talking about curses. Best believe. I thought they were a slightly better team, Baylor, and they won, finally. It was too damn long between wins against these guys. This is one of the most evenly matched rivalries in all of college football in meeting 120. And the first win since 2019. It was feeling a little cursy in terms of, the profile of these teams year in, year out. Some of the bounces not going your way. That fire drill field goal 2 years ago, to bring that up again. It's about time, okay? Because I was a fresh college grad last time that happened. I had a lot more hair on my head. It feels good to have that win and party all night with you guys to celebrate it. Man, I got to wrap this up, but the numbers are so good on here right now that I almost don't want to. I'll say this too about the rivalry. I'll give you something else. I'll throw you something else here. This might be the most important time in the Baylor TCU rivalry, which I know sounds weird. They've been playing for 120 years, and 10 years ago, they were both really good. That felt like the most important time. And right now, that is the peak of the rivalry. Don't get me wrong. Okay? That was the peak of the rivalry and probably will be for a long time. But this is an important time because Baylor and TCU have always hated each other since they were both in Waco 110 years ago, 115 years ago, right? It's always been the case. Been playing each other since 1899. But throughout that whole time, I think we could have both agree, both fan bases, we really liked getting one over on UT. And in the Big 12 days, like to get one over on OU. Those were different. Those were important. Those were sticking it to the man, David versus Goliath type stuff. You don't have that anymore. You don't have those games anymore. So now it's, for both these teams, Tech and mostly each other. So I think you're really going to see the hatred and the pomp and circumstance get elevated even more in these next few years with Texas and OU out of the picture and not on the schedule. And hopefully one of these days it'll be the last week of the regular season. I know some people don't like that because they don't like going head to head with Ohio State and Michigan. Don't think about it that way. Georgia and Georgia Tech don't think about it that way. Okay. Virginia Tech don't think about it that way. Kansas State, Iowa State don't think about it that way. So let's not. That's your rivalry game. That's your biggest rival. Play it on rivalry week. I hope that comes to fruition in the next few years here, because this is going to get, I think, jacked up no matter how good the teams are. I think for those of us who have been in it, there's real hatred between these two schools and between these two fan bases, and hopefully coaching staffs and players too. But we need some more of that. We need it rivalry week, and we need more Baylor wins in this rivalry, or should I call it a revivalry? Baylor wins it 37-34, walk-off field goal, Isaiah Hankins. Welcome back, Isaiah Hankins. And what an effort all the way around. Sawyer Robertson did leave the stadium in a boot, by the way. He took a hit on that penultimate drive, that touchdown drive. He did take a big hit towards the goal line, lower body hit, but Baylor goes into a bye week. So hopefully that is nothing more than just getting him rested up and healthy before they hit the road and take on West Virginia and Morgantown in a place that they have never won. You have a chance to knock off a couple special victories before this season is done. Finally beating TCU again, such a blowout win over Tech, and to win in Morgantown where you've never won. Like that's a chance to do something kind of special for a team that can finish only as well as 8-4, only as good as 8-4 in the regular season. You can get some pretty marquee victories in terms of Baylor historical stuff, which I like and I am rooting for. Thank you guys so much for tuning in late at night or whenever you're watching or listening to this after. I so appreciate it. You guys are the ones that make this the number one Baylor football postgame, not me. You guys do. And it is, I don't want to sound too corny, but I get, it's really special for me to see this many of you in the live post-game feeds, even well into the wee hours of the morn, and the ones who leave the comments. And that's really special. I got to see a lot more of you guys at the game today, talking about how much you guys love the show. I'm not very social. I'm really not. But I do love hearing that. So I'm really appreciative of that whenever I hear it. So thank you guys. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Be sure to like and subscribe. Not just saying that, and leave a comment whenever you're listening to it. And we will see you on Monday. We're breaking down more of this thing and previewing Baylor basketball, and then be ready for a very late Baylor basketball live post-game show. Very late, like this kind of late. We'll see you then on your favorite show, Locked On Baylor.